All right, everyone, welcome back to the Golf Unfiltered podcast. We got a very special episode this week here. You know me, I'm Adam over at golfunfiltered.com. You can send me an email, adam@golfunfiltered.com. Today, we are joined by Mr. Monday Q Info himself, Ryan French. Ryan, how are you, my friend?
Good, Adam. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your flexibility. We just literally you were at the gym. I'm sitting
Yeah,
at
it's true.
home. I'm
Yeah,
like, hey, man, you want to hop on and talk shop for a little bit?
yeah, perfect. And I'm hidden in the bedroom. My wife works from home. She's a nurse from home, so she's in our what we use as our office. So she usually ends at noon, and then I take over the office. But I'm hiding in the bedroom. This is the like we were just talking before. This is the content game in a nutshell, right here.
Right. It really much, very much is. Before we get into the content game, I thought it would be nice if we just give like a good 45-minute summary of the presidential debate from last night. I'm completely kidding. Completely
Do we
kidding.
really think Joe's a six or Trump's 120 whatever club championship?
I don't know. Who knows? It's funny because and I literally just got this text before I got on because I let my guys know at GU that hey, me and Monday Q are going to do a podcast. So we're covered for the week. Trevor Reese, who I think you know,
Yep.
he lives out in the DC area, and he's
Mhm.
seen the former guy golf, and he's like, yeah, he's not he's not there. But anyway, that's not why we're here to talk. We're here to talk a little bit about well, our respective brands, really. I mean, you've had a heck of a week. I think that's a good starting point with the whole, the Golf Galaxy employee. I mean, that you're on site at these Monday Qs, obviously, and you see this guy, and you just kind of say, "Hey, you want to sit down and chat a little bit about what you're going to experience?" How did that all unfold?
Yeah, I mean, just to give people some insight, like when I'm on site, um, I said a few times this week, Adam, it's like there's very rarely at a PGA Tour at Corn Ferry Mondays. There's a lot of guys coming from small colleges and stuff like that I don't know. Like they'll Monday qualify, and I'll be like, I have no idea who that guy is, but very rarely happens at a PGA Tour Monday, and so I love this part of it. It's very Monday Q, but the Rocket Mortgage Monday does handwritten scoreboards. And
Hmm.
so I went up and was looking at the scoreboard. I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. Never even heard of him. Googled him and I was like, nope, still don't know who this guy is. Saw him in the restaurant, and I mean, pretty standard thing for me is just like if I don't know or I do know, I just go up and introduce myself. I'm lucky enough that a lot of people know me, or someone will in the Monday Q world. A lot of people know me, and so they usually are willing to talk. Never had someone turn down. So he was drinking a beer, but I had no idea it was going to be this zero. Like I knew it was going to be very popular. The
Hmm.
fact that he got into a playoff after having beers made it even more popular, and then the playoff was epic. It was kind of a perfect storm for me and Nick, and great. I mean, just I've always said I cover players that don't have any media training or anything for the most part, so they just say what
Right.
they feel, and it's like people can relate to it. So, yeah, I was not on a lot of Mondays, but Mark's playing some Mondays coming up. He just got through the John Deere pre, so I'll be down at the John Deere. If I wasn't
Mhm.
on site, I wouldn't have got all this. It was pretty great, pretty perfectly aligned for me.
Well, and the guy we're talking about, Nick Bentz, is pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Ben's. Yep.
Um, he, to your point, really relatable, obviously. I mean, if we were to put ourselves in his shoes at that moment, I know I would probably need to settle my nerves somehow. And, drinking a few beers before you go out on the first tee to go try to qualify. Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. And I think what is really endearing about the content that you bring to everyone, and I mean, obviously we're a huge fan of yours. It is very much in that kind of bubble where it's very relatable. Kind of we can see ourselves in those people's shoes. You do a great job of telling those stories. You've told your origin story many times, but for those who maybe haven't heard it and perhaps kind of bringing it to present day, is that remain the goal to kind of have that relatability?
Yeah, I mean, Adam. Oh, my son had brain surgery 7 years ago. I started this with no expectations, and I wing it a lot of times, trying to turn it into a business just so I can keep it going has been the goal for a long time. Um, but looking back and now like 7 years into this, is I think pro golf, especially now, worse now than ever, is that none of us can relate to the money that's being thrown around or the lives of the top players. Like none of us. Uh, but we can relate to Nick, who works 30 hours a week. I mean, I say this of late, Adam, is I can relate to players more now because I'm doing kind of the same thing. It's like I'm not really making it, but trying to figure out how to make it every day.
Right.
And there's people behind me. My wife is amazingly supportive and stuff like that. So, and people are supporting me, and companies and all those things. But it's like I can relate more. And I think that we all can relate to that, whether it's, you want to be an engineer and you're working at Lowe's or whatever. We can all relate to, hey, these people against reality, right? Like the odds that Nick Benz ever makes it is almost zero. And that's not a shot at
Mhm.
Nick. That's for everybody. Uh, but he doesn't like pro golf is not, at least at the level I cover, is not based in reality. So I think that's what has worked. I didn't know that when I started it. I had no idea this would ever be a thing. But I think pro golf on TV, none of us can relate to. $600 million for Rom, and now these elevated events. You finish last, you're gonna get 100,000. Like
Mhm.
no one. That's no one's world. That's no one's world. And so the players I cover a lot are there's plenty of rich players. I always say that is like, listen, there's a lot of players out there who have very rich parents who don't ever need to make a Monday. So, but Nick and Mark Baldwin is obviously,
Mhm.
someone, a partner, business partner, and close to me, lives with his in-laws, all those things. I think people can relate to that. So that's what's worked.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely has, and I mean, I think from our perspective, and you and I have kind of chatted just, both in person as well as, over the phone, just about the progress or sometimes the lack thereof of what we do. In my instance, I don't do it full time. You do, and it's one of those where it's okay. Well, the pro game with all the changes that it's been going through, the unrelatability, as you just kind of described. I mean, it makes it a little bit more difficult in my eyes because it's always a matter of, in our case, we try to cover a generality of the game.
Mhm.
In your case, you do a very focused, but you also kind of go off on the fringe, I guess that's fair to say, in a really good way. Um, what would you say is the drive that you still have to kind of do this stuff? Because you and I joke, like I'm like every year is the last year I'm going to do this, but how do
Yeah,
you keep it going?
100%. Yeah, I mean, just on a future standpoint, there's a lot of rumors about what's going to happen to the PGA Tour. I'm not sure my world exists in 2 years, So
Mm,
uh, I'd love to say in 5 years I'm going to do this and that. The fact is, in 5 years there might be two tours with 70 players, and it's a true farm system on the Corn Ferry Tour. And what I do doesn't even really exist outside of like a few spots. So, um, I mean, I think Monday, Adam, is kind of a look into what keeps me going. You and I have talked about the frustration. Listen, as my account has grown, there's trolls, there's people who don't like what I do, which is totally fine. The trolls get aggravating for sure. You and I just talked about it off camera. Is is sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's like, man, I'm so tired of this stuff.
yeah.
Um, uh, but I think Monday is kind of what drives me because take all of my account and all of the stuff that happened. I would have loved that story as a golf fan. I'm a golf nerd, right? And
Mhm.
I was genuinely invested in Nick, not for clicks. Obviously, the clicks help. I'm not trying to say that like this hasn't helped my account. And obviously it has, but
Sure.
I genuinely invested in that. I think it's very cool. And for the most part, the stories I tell and the tweets I send out are things that I would have tweeted out from my personal account and if I had 7 followers. So that's what has kept me going is that I genuinely still love stories like Nick and those kind of things. Making it a business, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. So, uh, it's just been I mean, it continues to be a process. Uh, and that's not a complaint. I don't like I super lucky but do I want to make a living? Yeah, I mean, yes, eventually I would like to make a living. Uh, so, and at some point you got to be like, this is ridiculous. You're covering Monday qualifiers. It's probably ridiculous. 7 years seems a bit ridiculous. There has been times at Fire Pit I made a living, but uh, so what keeps me going is that I genuinely love it. This is way too serious, Adam, but uh, there is a huge value in doing what you love. I mean, the fact
Mhm.
is, I've been open about my mental health and my struggles. My marriage is better. My relationship with my kids is better. My mental health is better because I wake up and do something I genuinely love. I was fine in the restaurant business. I didn't hate it. We had a good marriage before. It's better. I'm home most days with my wife, travel more now. I'm more present. I should be on my phone less, but I'm around my kids more often. I get to tuck them into bed more often. I can make my own schedule. So for my personal life, it's been great. Turning it into a business has been hard.
Yeah, yeah. I can relate to a lot of that, and one of the ways that you and I connected, obviously through golf, but also just talking about like mental health and life and stuff. And I really do genuinely enjoy those conversations that you and I have, because it's helpful. So you and I are in our 40s, and we're in this. I don't know if we would say it's a young man's game, the content game. I
Yeah,
mean, like the
yeah, I
bar
think that's
stools and
yeah.
you know what I mean?
I called Nick
Um,
Benz a kid. He's like 26.
Isn't that sad, man? Like there
Yeah,
are people, we always, just as a quick aside, whenever you watch any sports, whether it be NBA and the NFL, PGA Tour, whatever, there's always that rookie class that comes up, and I'm like, I could literally be their dad,
yeah,
literally
very,
be their dad,
yeah,
and it's
100%.
it's so bad. And then the announcers talk about how ancient some of the veterans are, and they're like 32.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but anyway, yeah, I mean, I think I recently published a piece, talking a little bit about, mental health, what I kind of do when I'm on the golf course, and how it's always like that constant hum. I've been pretty open as well about my anxiety disorder and other things. And I know you have as well on your site on Monday. Um, I think to your point about doing something that you enjoy and that you truly love, there's a lot of benefit to that, and it's nice when we can actually live that and not just like you Google what should you do for life,
yeah,
and or for a
mhm,
career, and it says, "Oh, do what you love." But when you
yeah.
actually do it, that kind of keeps you going a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I don't wanna sugarcoat it. I mean, my amazing wife supported us for a long time as I've tried to figure this out. Um, again, you said it perfectly, Adam, like, we'd all love to do what I love. I'd love to do this forever. At the end of the day, I have a mortgage to pay.
Right.
Um, so doing what you love is, uh, easy to say out loud, but again, I think, I've said in my article, your article was great, by the way. I meant to send you a
Oh, thanks.
message, Adam. Is I think because of what I went through, put myself through, I'm not trying to, uh, I've made some of my own poor decisions, not trying to
Sure.
say it was something, is that I'm more aware of what makes me happy now. I don't think had I gone through that, I would be as aware. So I put a lot of value in doing something I love. You know, like again, you got to pay our mortgage, but there's just a ton of value in being able to wake up every day and talk about things that I would talk about with my group of friends 8
Mhm.
years ago. Uh, and so, um, I- from my mental health is way better now. Twitter and social media are a dark place at times. I've said to many people, you asked me about the trolls. Sorry, like I feel when I really think about it, I feel sad that I'm used to it, right? That I
Mm.
let comments about me being a piece of shit or stupid, but about tweets about players no one ever knows about. that I'm used to that is kind of depressing. But
Mm.
the uh, if there ever is a time that that outweighs the good, right now that's 20 or 30 to 1. I got a message from Craig Perks, sent me a great message, said something very nice on the broadcast. That is 20 times more important to me than some asshole that is, saying something. But it doesn't mean it doesn't bother me. So, uh, the whole back to do what you love. Yes. Uh, just it's not as easy as you think it is.
No, it never is. It never is. Well, and it's funny too because as uh, followers of your account and of my accounts, you know, we also get to experience some great stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's not all just pumping out content with nothing in return. You've had many opportunities to do many great things. Most notably, caddying for Mark at Pebble, which I know was awesome for you and you documented really well. You had the opportunity to get a short game lesson from Phil Mickelson, for crying out loud. I mean, how did that come about? And are you still working on some of the stuff you learned?
Yeah. So the long story, and I don't even know if I've told the long. I mean, I've told it in tweets, but not in detail. Mark played a money game with Phil a long time
Mm.
ago. It was after the Ryder Cup with Watson and the whole thing. And Phil was trying to get ready for the fall season. He was looking for a big money game. Mark had a backer who was a big time gambler. He took 95% of the action. They went and played Phil. Go read the story. I won't do it justice because Phil did very Phil things to Mark on the last closing 4 holes to win a large amount of money. So Mark got through first stage, and Phil has followed me, which is wild because he's just the anti-Monday Q. He's the best amateur in the world since he's like 10, and I just like I don't know. I for some reason just thought an idea of hey, I'll just send Phil a message and say, hey, return the favor. We had known that Phil had read the original article, uh,
Okay.
so he followed Mark when that happened. It was in the middle of the Billy Walters book and all those things. So we knew he had read it. So I sent him a message and said, hey man, would you return the favor? Mark got you ready for the fall season. And dude, I mean, Adam, I thought if he did a video call with him, it would have been more than I thought. And he goes, yeah, here's my cell phone. Tell him to call me. And I was like, whoa, what?
Wow.
And so sent it to Mark. I mean, what the hell do you say to Phil Mickelson? Like, hey, this is Mark Baldwin. And then he said, okay, yeah, come on out. And I mean, I'll break it on Unfiltered, but I mean, we talk about 1/20th of what Mark's out there all the time. And again, Phil's place in the game is very, very complicated. Uh, but and I don't know, is he doing this partly for PR? I don't know. From what I've seen, I don't believe that because he could do other things for PR and get it. The fact is, he's been genuinely, ridiculously kind to Mark,
Mm.
and he's improved Mark's game, and he's kept him going, and he sends him text messages and all of those things. So, uh, I don't know how I've been able to separate it. I understand people's feelings about our relationship with Phil, um, but he's been genuinely kind to a very good friend, and I don't know how to, I just it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, and then you somehow got in there and he gave you
Yeah,
tips. I mean, we've
yeah.
seen the
So
videos, man.
yeah, so Mark said here the most one of the most embarrassing moments in my golf life. Uh, so Mark said, "Hey, Ryan wants to or would can Ryan come out and play?" Phil's like, "Yeah," and so literally Phil came up. I don't know why you just feel like you've never seen as a golf fan. I've never seen any star with not a bunch of people around him. If they walk into a press conference, they have people around him,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so Phil just rolls up at the farms by himself, and you're just like, "What the hell has happened?" And he had a coffee ready for me in his own
Of
cup.
course.
It's wild. And he says, "Hey, man, nice to meet you. Love what you do, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Let's hit some chips." And so, for those listening that don't know, I have the chipping yips. And there is nothing quite more embarrassing than, I mean, I'm sculling and chunking chips. I'm like a decent player, you know, but
Yeah.
just the full blown yips. And I am chunking and sculling I met him 30 seconds ago, and I can't get one on the green, and we're 7 paces off of the green. I mean, it like the yips is nerves, and uh, so I literally hit 10 balls, and he's like, "Whoa, we are in deep trouble here." And so, I mean, the Philly that you see on TV is the Phil uh, that like I mean, I've I don't know if I've told this story. So again, unfiltered one is we're on the like fifth hole, and Phil is like even. He hasn't played great, and he's like 132 out, and he's like, I think I'm gonna make this. They're just really good yardage. I feel this is like really good, and he hits it. I swear to God, the ball was like off the club face. He's like, I think I did it, and it like went behind the hole and lit, like rolled over the hole. He didn't make it, but it's like,
Oh
what the
God.
hell has happened? So yeah, sculling and chunky chips. So he gave me a lesson. I'll say this all the time is my chipping has greatly improved. The
Mhm.
biggest thing is when you have the yips, like you never do the same thing 2 chips in a row. So at the very least, I know I'm doing the right thing. Even if I yip one, I'm like, okay, I got to keep at this. When I had the yips before, I mean, I still have them, just not as bad. Is you go like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try this, or I'll try my hands back or forward, or I'll hit one high or hit one low. So at the very least, I know I'm doing the right thing. Back to the most surreal moment ever is uh, I was in Phil Mickelson's house. He has a range in the backyard. For those
You were
that
in
don't
his
know,
house.
I was well at his house, not in his house, but I was
Okay,
in his
okay.
first shop. It was raining, and we didn't have rain gear, so Phil gave us Phil Mickelson logoed rain gear. At his range at home, he has Phil Mickelson logoed balls, and I was getting a chipping lesson from Phil Mickelson. And truly, for a minute, like I remember looking up, and there's Phil like looking at you, giving you a lesson, and it all hit me. And he could have said like, "Hey Ryan, we need to take cover." I didn't hear a word. Like it all hit me like, what the hell has happened in my life that this is all going down?
That is so crazy. Thanks for sharing that story. So when you find like when you lay down in bed at the end of that day,
Yeah.
what goes through your mind? You just like, holy shit, or what do you
Yes.
think?
I mean, I still like just telling it now. It's holy shit. So Uh, we played 2 days. Monday, uh, it we played 18 holes, and then Tuesday is supposed to downpour. So we're like, well, at least we got one day, right? And so we go up to Phil on Monday night. We're like, hey, what's the plan? He's like, we call it a mutter day. He's like, the course is going to be close. We're going to play money, guys. We're going to play as many holes as we can. And it is a downpour. This isn't like I wouldn't think about touching a club. No club would be open. No sane person would play golf. And we played 18 holes. And and like the same thing. Adam is like, this is on camera. We didn't record any of it. Is like
Mhm.
he's asking for yardages and stuff. Like, where's the wind mark? And they're playing for like, and I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Just hit the ball. It's pouring rain. And I mean, just the craziest 2 days. I mean, I'm like, did I really like I just Mark
Yeah.
posted a video of me chipping off the green and of at my home course, I had to carry this fringe and it was like 1 in 100 and I pulled it off. And Phil replied like, I didn't even see that happening or something like that. And like
Right.
even that moment is like so crazy surreal. So yes, a million things have happened that are the craziest shit ever. That is probably number one.
I would definitely rate it up there for sure. I don't have anything from that to that level. I guess the only thing I could possibly think in terms of this, the extra, like I guess you would call it a perk or an amazing experience that we got to have because of what we do. Um, I had the opportunity, and the Glen Club in Glenview,
Yeah.
Illinois.
Mhm.
Um, I was up there, and I got the opportunity years ago to play with Graham McDowell, and we were up there. This was when he was ranked number 5 in the world, and he just, I hadn't played with a tour caliber player ever, and
Yeah.
it was in an outing atmosphere, but he was going to play with our group for like he was supposed to play with our group for like 3 holes, but he ended up playing like 7 with us the rest of the round. And it was for Guinness, and we were there to kind of cover it. And we're throwing back Guinness. Graham McDowell is wasted, and he's still completely on the money. I mean, the number 5 golfer in the planet, and he's hitting balls. And so we're on this par 5, and I think I've told this story before on the show a while ago, but he hits his tee shot. It's just a frozen rope, not a long hitter, but straight. It's on the left-hand side of the fairway. I hit mine just over by him as well. The other people in our foursome, they all hit off to the right. So they're all looking for their golf balls in the right stuff. And we're over here on the left. So it's just me and the number 5 player in the world. And we both hit our approaches. And then we get to a point where, all right, well, it's our third shot. We're up, we got to hit the green now. And he gives me a yardage. And he said, and I'm going to do a horrible Irish brogue, but he goes, it's like 132 or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I pull out, and again, I'm lit, Ryan. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been drinking
Love
for
this.
3 hours.
Yeah.
I get up. I wouldn't say there's nerves, but I want to impress
Yeah.
Graham
Of course.
McDowell. And so I pull, I think like a 9-iron at the time. I get up. He's watching me. He's giving me the wind and everything, and I absolutely top it. And it goes probably 10 yards in front of me. He doesn't look at me. He's just looking at where the shot goes, and he just goes, "Not your best," and then drives off.
We
ended up
on video. Obviously, would be great content, but just for your own personal thing.
Oh, I wish I had that on video. And the only thing I did have on video, because he ended up doing an interview at the end with me. I was with SB Nation at the time, and I had to do this thing. And the only video I do have somewhere is we all played night golf after. Like everyone in the outing put on glow sticks and had the glow golf balls, and we were all going to go to 17, which is a par 3, and we're going to hit closest to the pin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever hit. Have you ever hit like a glow in the dark golf ball?
Horrible. Yeah,
they're terrible. They don't go anywhere. Everyone hits. He steps up, hits it to like 2 feet.
Yeah,
and everybody is wasted. Like it's ridiculously bad.
Amazing.
But it was a great time. And I think it's stories like that we both share, and you've got many others, and there's others that we won't tell on camera, I'm sure. I could relate to that. But that's what at least brings it back, right? That's what kind of keeps it enjoyable, and it's those pinch me moments, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm at my core, I'm just a golf nerd. Like, I mean, obviously, Phil, I just played the BMW, which is insane. But again, like, I'm a nerd. Obviously, Phil and being playing, they're like top moments. But like last week, it's funny now, but like I caddied in a Monday qualifier and forgot a club of Mark, and I had to run back. And it happened to be in Brian Davis as a golf nerd. Like, had a very good career, won on the European Tour. Everybody knows him for calling the penalty on himself at the Heritage, blah, blah, blah. And like, he's pissed off at me that I've like interrupted his thing. And he's like, well, I'm not going to hit with you there. And it's in his bag, and I grab it and I run back, and Mark's in a hazard. Like, we started out Mark was 3 under through 3, and this is 7, and he's hit it in the shit. He's already won over since that start of the thing. Like, it's kind of like, we're not having a ton of fun at this point. And I mean, just looking back, Mark wrote 1,000 words on how ridiculous it was. But like, those moments are like surreal and hilarious. Obviously, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have forgotten it. But like, just crazy. Like, did Brian Davis just really yell at me at a Monday qualifier after I forgot a club of a business partner, and then I grabbed it, and I'm sweating at him. I'm not like, hey, having some sweat. I am drenched. And I hand the club to Mark, and I'm like, I can't breathe. And I'm just tried to hold my breath as long as I could while he hit. I mean, there was some like people who were there to follow Mark who knew me, like they're laughing. It was ridiculous. And those moments, not in the top 5, but truly surreal too, is like, what the hell has happened to my life? What the hell has happened?
Yeah. Once again, folks, we're talking to Ryan French, Monday Q Info. not to leave on a heavy note, but you mentioned Mark Baldwin many times. I know you guys are really close friends, and you guys have gone through a lot together in the golf world as well as life. And what does that partnership, friendship mean to you?
Yeah, he's just a wonderful dude. We met maybe 6 years ago when I first started. He was one of the first followers, and he asked me to caddy at a Corn Ferry event, and, uh, I think he's too nice to be a great golfer because the talent is there. Phil has talked about it on a podcast, like, super talented. He's just the kindest person. He's a great friend. We're friends with his, wife, Sarah. Miles is a great kid, and, um, you know, he's been obviously an immense help. He's now a partner in Monday Q, writes for us, and you just want he's been so great to me, Adam, is that I just want so badly to for him to make it. But
Mhm.
um we've shared some unreal moments. I've talked about it plenty of times before, but he Monday qualified for the Barracuda and then made the cut. It was his first made cut in the PGA Tour event. Um, and we were walking up 18. He thought it might be the end of his career at that time. And, obviously I shared it, but that wasn't the moment. And he's just like, hey, Ryan, thanks so much. Uh, if this is the end, this is a perfect ending. And, thanks for being a part of it. I'm not sure I'd be here if it wasn't for you. And obviously I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for him. And
Mm.
so the funny part of that is I was super out of shape, and there was a forest fire going on, and 18 at the place where the Barracuda is dead uphill, and I was crying, uh, and I was like, "You got to stop talking, dude. I'm gonna fall down in front of these cameras, die." Um, but I mean, amazing experiences that he's taken me along on, and the fact is he could take anybody. Like, obviously I helped him, fire pit helped him, we all helped him get a exemption back into the Barracuda and the AT&T. And so he's kind of, I always say I have the best. I'm never going to get fired as a caddy because I helped him get into some of these events. But like, he could take a tour caddy. He doesn't, like, if he gets in this week at John Deere, the fact is he could call his buddy Willie if he's not working for Sung Jae, and he would be
Mhm.
there in a minute, and he'd probably have a better chance. I'm not a professional caddy, and he lets me be inside of the ropes some of his greatest moments. I got to caddy at Pebble Beach. We played with Peter Jacobson. Fluff was on his bag. Huey Lewis was following us. It's the most insane 6 days ever, and he's just a great human and a great friend, and I'm super lucky to have met him. And he's a huge part of what we do.
Well, thanks for sharing that, man. And we are super lucky to have had you agree to come on here. I'm glad that we've had the chance to meet. That day you sold me a lamp at your garage sale when you
Stole.
still
That's
lived.
fine, man. That's fine.
Stole.
We're not gonna
Yep.
we're
But
not gonna go over
anyway,
details.
right, right. Ryan French, ladies and gentlemen, Monday Q Info. You know where to find them all over social media. Thanks again, Ryan, for hopping on for a few moments this Friday, and I hope you have a good weekend and keep the content game going, bud.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Same. It's been great to meet you. Text conversations have been great, and part of the I part of the great part of Twitter is that I've met some people that I've never met, and I would have never met in my life, and you're among them, and I appreciate it. Appreciate our conversation. So thanks for having me on.
Same man.